So that would be Game 7 of Diamondbacks Phillies, which, let's be real, that's unlikely. So I hate when we're in the moment and then we wait a while. So even if you went the full 7, which we won't, right? Likely we'll be done with this round by Monday. Ready for it? We're not talking about the long layoff shit. I'm over that. I'm just talking about fan experience of watching playoff games. Tuesday, no baseball. Wednesday, no baseball. Thursday, no baseball. Friday we start again.
Not a fan.
That's a long time. That's unnecessary. Do you guys need that much time? This isn't the Super Bowl where we have to like hype it up. I think if anything, it dies down. Baseball's a momentum sport.
Go ahead, Erik.
No, I think it's a momentum sport, and I think the rest is fine. I don't think they need that rest. The Super Bowl, it's 2 weeks off. They take 2 entire weeks off between the NFC, AFC championship till the Super Bowl. So this is fine. This is not a big deal. Like, there's build up. You can build stuff up. And honestly, you're anticipating the World Series. Like, this is the main stage. This is what everybody is hoping their team gets to. So, I think it's good. I think it's a good layoff. You can't. How soon do you want to start it? You want to start it Wednesday? Here we are watching Wednesday's game. First game of the World Series. Neat.
So,
yes, I do. I want to start it Wednesday. Wednesday's a good day.
I respectfully disagree with you because I love you. Football's a different sport. I could go play football right now. That's how much the layoff in football between baseball players and football players is different, bro. I got to see live. 3 or 4. I'm still upset about the whole 5 days off thing.
You're still on that?
I'm pissed off. I didn't like it at all. I thought it was bull. They got to figure something else out. And I saw AJ's rant about the whole thing. Listen, I didn't like it. I think that was part of the reason why those teams didn't win. I'm not trying to make an excuse, but that's the excuse I'm making. I don't 5 days off. Come on, dude.
Wait.
I want to give 1 day, 1 or 2 days, 2 days off after the final game of the World Series, and let's get going.
So you're saying that it's really tough to sit on the bench for a lot of days and then get thrust into a game and try to perform?
It's hard.
It is hard. Like, it's really hard?
Oh, you're telling me it's not hard?
No, you're getting set up. You're getting set up right now because we're talking to a guy who did that his whole career.
Of course. No, I know where he was going with it.
Yep.
The playoffs.
I've been there too. I've been there. Hey, the guys that have been playing, you got to let them play, man. Let's go. Let's get it popping. Well, baseball's a sport where we don't give much love anyway, if you want the truth. Like, the anticipation of the football playoffs is like, oh, let's go. The anticipation of basketball, college, whether it's NBA, people love that stuff. People love the baseball anticipation, but if you lose 4 or 5 days, you're going to lose a lot of people too as well, in my opinion, from what I've seen. Like, oh, it's great. There's no New York teams in there. I mean, Philly, thank God, still involved. But, it's a different thing. Like, people love the playoffs. I'll still watch the Raiders play the Chargers if it's the first round of the football playoffs. You know what I mean?
Baseball's a momentum sport. It's a volume sport. Like,
yes.
you have the comfort of being able to go to your device and watch a game every day from spring training, end of Feb, all the way through the end of October.
People need their sleep too. Ask a regular fan. I know this doesn't, Scotty B, you don't sleep, so it doesn't apply to you. But people need their sleep. When your team's in the playoffs, at the end of whatever it is, if this is a 4-game series for the Phillies or a 7-game series for the Astros Rangers, you're sitting there at the end and you're like, whew, I need a night's sleep. These are all 11:30 nights, and my alarm still goes off at 6 a.m. to get up for work. So you need to sleep. I like it.
Okay, fine.
That's why we can agree and disagree. That's why I love it.
No, very opinionated Hannah Keyser's first guest that's going to join us in 10 minutes. So for the next 10 minutes, let's get into the Astros and the Rangers. Let's charge the damn mound, and we've got ourselves a little bit of a series. You know who had a long layoff? Max Scherzer had not pitched in a minute. Some things I noticed, Kratz, were that he actually got to 2 strikes very frequently, and I didn't crunch every single number. I just wasn't putting dudes away, and some of that could be on him. Some of that could be on the Astros, too. Pretty good contact team, and they were sitting on the fastball and sometimes got it over the heart of the plate. They did their damage. They did their damage early on. This was like many playoff games that we've seen so far in 2023. You jump ahead, you get a lead like that, and the Rangers showed some fight, especially Josh Young had himself a day, but it wasn't enough. This is what you'd expect. This is road Astros baseball with Javier and the boys showing up.
Road at the Globe too, not just regular road Astros, at the Globe Astros. Like Globe Life has been there. They've been their daddy there. I mean, it was impressive too because they kept like the 2-run. I'm trying to think who it was. Oh, when Josh Young hit the second home run, had the Astros not added on there, and this I think is where the bullpen strength maybe flexed a little bit by the Rangers. They didn't quite have the strength to keep that a 5. That would have been a 5-4 game after Josh Young hits that dinger. Instead, it's 7-4. You're still 3 runs up. Like, you don't even need to bring Brian Abreu in. Like, there's weaknesses that I think were shown by the Rangers. But, man, the Astros, and now they're coming into tonight's game against, the entire lineup hits over 250 against Andrew Heaney, which I was surprised. I think Andrew Heaney, in a small sample size, he can throw that curveball enough, but you can't just keep throwing the curveball. And I think that's his best weapon to neutralize these guys.
Yeah, and you think about the whole situation with Scherzer, like, when you're facing guys like Maldonado, usually you put those kind of guys away. And, 2-strike RB, a couple RBI single. What's his name is just the big dog's cracking all the home runs. Jordan Alvarez is just he's unconscious right now. It doesn't matter if it's a lefty throwing, a righty throwing, ambidextrous. It doesn't matter. This guy is off the chain right now. You have to go like this anytime there's a runner on. There's something going on. He is just absolutely in fuego. He's going to make a lot more money too with the way he's playing. It's just what I think about now. If they do go Game 7, that's Scherzer's start. That's what's supposed to be the starter that comes out. So it's like, boy, I think the Rangers right now, it's crazy how momentum can shift from one game to the next. And all of a sudden you're up 2-1. It doesn't feel like you're up 2-1. So it's something where I think at the end of the day, the Rangers would like to win this in six games. I would assume.
And the bottom of the lineup showed up too, Kratz, as we're looking at Mad Max. Bottom of the lineup for the Astros. And they made the change. Kyle Tucker down to the 6 hole. Yep. Don't tell me that lineup changes don't matter. Brantley up to the 2 spot. Tucker was a beast yesterday, an on-base machine. He had 3 walks and a knock. And then the bottom of the lineup, like you mentioned with Maldonado, also had Mauricio Dubon, who can show up and give you a little streak like that yesterday, who had a few knocks. So it was the bottom getting the job done for the most part for Houston. So give them some credit when we've been like praising the Rangers' length in their lineup, which it's still there. Josh Young getting the job done there towards the bottom, and Tavares has been great for them. But the Astros have some thump there too.
Yeah, and I said this in the beginning of the playoffs. I said, what's going to be the biggest difference? I said, listen, you're going to have your pitching, you're going to have your hitting. The biggest difference, how are those bottom of the lineup guys, 7, 8, 9, 6, 7, 8, 9s, going to bode well? And Texas did in the beginning with Josh Young and Carter, but now Carter's a 3-hole hitter. Mm-hmm. So it goes to show you, like, if you're hot, we're going to move you up. And Bruce Bochy, I love that about him. So how are the rest of these guys at the bottom going to stack up? Because they're going to come up with some situations, as you've seen, with runners on especially. They walk a guy, the 3-hole hitter, a bloop single, put this guy on. Now you got your 7-hole hitter up, like, all right, 2 outs. Who's going to step up? Astros did that yesterday.
Yeah, and Jordan, he's either going to do damage or get on base. And I actually thought one of the key moments too, Kratz, was you have Mo2, back foot literal slider that hits him and gets him on. He eventually scores. Also, Max's command, wasn't the same, right? We had some wild pitches. You had some pitches over the middle of the plate from the fastball, which, is not good from him. So I think for me, Tucker in that spot, right? Jordan's usually going to be on, or he drove people in. He was kind of like the second table setter there for them. Best 6 hitter on the planet, if that's where you're putting Kyle Tucker.
It lengthened everything out. It showed, as soon as that lineup came out, that's why I wanted the Jordan walk, because I didn't think they were going to throw to Jordan. And then you get to Tucker in the 6 hole, and you're like, oh yeah, no way they're going to throw to Tucker now. And he ended up doing damage and lengthening that lineup out. And I think the big thing you hit on that was key for Scherzer was his location. His average fastball velocity, while it's not up to his peak numbers, it was essentially where it was all season this year. He's a 93 to 94, touch to 95 guy. But it's that location. and to miss a pull hooked cutter that he was trying to go up and in to Jordan, and he pull hooked it back foot, or at least it looked like he was trying to go up and in because Heim had his mitt all the way up and in, and it was 0-2. You were ahead, and that's where you go with him. But to pull it to his back foot behind his front foot, it was telling, and that's why he gave up the damage that he ended up giving up. Like, he didn't want to throw that ball to Altuve where he did, and Altuve finally got off the schneid too, which makes this team scary. Like, if the Diamondbacks win tonight, are we saying the same thing? Or this afternoon's 5 o'clock game, are we saying the same thing? Because right now everyone's like, oh, Houston's made. Now we have a series. Like, it's still 2-1 Texas, and they're at home. But for some reason, we keep painting the narrative that the Astros are going to just dominate in Houston. But that's what they've done all year. So it's like, why would it go? Why would it not?
Exactly, 100%. And they've been there before, and they have done it numerous times. We've been a part of one. So it's like, what do you expect? Do you expect something different? They're not going to come out and do damage on the road. And I go back to the point with Christian Javier. I mean, I don't know why this guy's not the, number 2 starter. Why he didn't throw game 2. Like, this guy should, I know that'll be game 7. Imagine having that guy game 7. I mean, that's pretty darn good if you ask me. But I would have moved him up. Like, this guy needs to be pitching a lot more.
Well, if they make the World Series,
I think you make a change.
And let's say Framber's not good again in his next start.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite obvious Christian Javier's got it a lot more than Framber Valdez right now.
Yeah, Verlander than him, 100%.
Yep.
So here's my question. If you see Javier, which he had some struggles during the season, he was the same guy last night, no extra velocity, he struggled with some command and he wasn't striking guys out. If you see him more than once, Todd,
yeah,
think about how you start catching up to that fastball. And I think, to me, that's where in the regular season, guys are in the same environment, seeing him all the time. He only had 3 strikeouts last night. To me, there's a lot of Rangers, and this is the type of pitcher he is. You go back, he hit some pop-ups because he had a lot of fly balls. Oh, I just missed that. Oh, I just missed that. But now you see him again within a quick series, within the 4 days that you're going to see him again. Maybe you get to him.
Yeah, but this is a guy that they've seen before. I mean, he's played Texas.
Not in this environment. Not with the extra.
I understand, but still, it's a guy you've seen before. So, like,
totally. But
it's one of the playoffs. Oh, they're all of a sudden it's totally different. I think it's different, right. Yes, but I still think it's the same guy that you're facing. It's just blown up a little bigger. I get it. But I
think his superpower is that spin rate fastball at the top of the zone. Everything else he throws is just to Maldonado's like, please don't leave it right down the middle. Like, he's given wide sets. He's given deep corners on changeups. Like, he's not looking for him to throw anything middle at all. This is where he's making his money. So to me, that fastball, because when Todd Frazier hits in the postseason, you got more juice. You're whacking balls. You just have that extra adrenaline. Christian Javier has more spin rate. No more velocity, but more spin rate, that little at the end.
A little heavier. Yep, for sure.
My one other point is, do you take anything out of Brian Abreu giving up his first run in decades? That was his first run in 31 appearances since July 15th. Adolis had the 2-out RBI knock through the right side. It's not like he crushed it, but you're getting another look at him. They kept the game close. Abreu is not pitching in that game if it's 8-2, right? It was 8-4, becomes 8-5. And we know the thing about a 7-game series is if you use the relievers, your high leverage relievers, 5+ times in that series, muscle memory, these are professional hitters. It helps. They are less intimidated the more they see him. Now you go in the dugout, hey, boys, he's human. Look, we got to run off of him. We can do this. Because for a while, for half the freaking season, it didn't look like that was possible.
And rarely do you get seen that many times in a short span of time, and you continue to dominate. And that's what's impressive about what Ryan Presley has done in his career. He's always going out there and just converting. Mariano Rivera, what he did in his career, he's like, you knew what you're getting, and guys could not make the adjustment. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Abreu coming down the stretch here. Because he's going to, for them, it's like I said yesterday about Framber, the day before his start. If he doesn't throw well, he is a key to this series because he's got to throw twice. For them to win after they lost game 1, he's got to throw twice. If they lose game 2, they did lose game 2. If the Astros are going to win, you're going to have to see Brian Abreu out on the mound 3 more times. I don't see this being a blowout. In fact, I even see Heaney doing decent tonight.
And they could lose Framber's game if they keep this up. They win the next 2. They lose Framber's game, and then they win game 7. Just throwing that out there. But yes, I mean, ideally, you'd like to put things together with him. So we're going to talk to Hannah Keyser coming up in a sec. She's at that series. And also we'll ask her about the Kim Ng situation with the Marlins. So our poll question, where will Kim end up next season? Mets, Red Sox, White Sox, Yankees, or nowhere? Which front office? WatchStadium.com/foul territory. Be right back.
Let's just look at this from the ownership perspective. The last 2 times this team made the playoffs. 2020, after the shortened season, they make the playoffs. President of Baseball Operations, Michael Hill, is gone. 2023, they make the playoffs in a full season for the first time since winning the World Series in 2003. General Manager Kim Ng is gone. I think that tells you all you need to know. Now, clearly she wanted certain things done differently, and as a person in her position, she has that right to express it, particularly when she has had success. She also seemingly wanted an extension rather than the club just picking up her option. Yes, she has that right to ask for that when she has had success. And then when you tell her, Kim, nice job, but we're going to bring in a president of baseball operations over you, so you'll effectively be the number 2. I mean, you're hearing all you need to know if you're Kim Ng. So this speaks to the Marlins. It speaks to their ownership. It speaks to me, a lack of vision. And also, one other thing I want to point out here. The Marlins didn't mind all the positive press when they hired Kim Ng. Oh, wow, what a progressive organization. How cool is it that the Marlins are hiring the first female general manager in Major League history? Well, that's fine, and they deserved it at the time. But hey, they deserve every bit of backlash they're getting for mistreating this person who is accomplished, who has done good things for the organization, who is well-liked in their organization. It wasn't like she was a tyrant and people, we can't stand Kim. No, she was highly respected. I don't know what they're doing.
And now back to foul territory.
FT Live back on Stadium. Braun, Frazier, Kratz, and our first guest of the day, Hannah Keyser, joining us back on the show. You can follow all her work at Yahoo Sports. Follow her at Hannah R. Keyser on Twitter. And also, I just listened on my drive to her bandwagon pod. So we'll get into some of those topics right now. So, Hannah, how you doing? And I will say, are you enjoying this postseason as much as prior postseasons? Because that was a topic that you brought up this week.
Not as much as prior postseason.
Explain.
But I want to be clear. I think a lot of people's issue with the postseason is perhaps like, these big 100-win teams getting bounced. This is a illegitimate tournament or something. That's not my issue with it at all. My issue is strictly on a game level. We've had so few close games and even fewer lead changes. Every game feels like if you score first, all right, we're just, counting the outs until that team wins. The best game we've had was when the Braves came back against the Phillies, and that was their only win in that series. I just think there haven't really been any truly memorable games, but I actually kind of like the teams we have left. So I think there's still hope for this postseason.
Let me ask you this. Are you a fan? Because we've talked about this a couple of times. Some people agree, some people disagree about the layoff, the 5-day layoff. The World Series is going to be on Friday. We can have 2 teams waiting another 5 days. So what do you think about that whole situation? And I'll tell you what I say, because I don't want to steer you one way or another.
Well, I think next year, maybe we can give the top 2 seeded teams the choice. They can either take the break or they can play in the wild card if they really want to.
Yes.
I think I'm genuinely interested in, this is a new format. We're only in the second year. I'm sure teams are thinking critically in the offseason, in the lead up to the postseason. How can we best maximize that break so that way we get the rest, but we don't get the rust, and we get to line up our pitching, but our hitters stay on time? I'm interested to see how teams themselves develop in years going forward, their approach to that break. But I don't think the break is a hindrance to the top seeded teams.
Completely agree. Because if that's the case, then why is anybody even going to watch the World Series? Because we're going to be off for 4 days after the series are over. What did you see from Scherzer last night that the Rangers can say this was a positive from the game and from how he approached that this was a positive? Because they're going to need to see him again if this game goes where I think it's going to go into a Game 7.
Well, the velocity was good, so that's a big positive. And I think your mileage on this can vary, but Scherzer himself seemed uncharacteristically positive after the game. I actually thought this was really interesting and really notable. He was explicitly like, I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm going to focus on what I thought I did well. He didn't want to specify too much what he thought he did well because he figured the Astros might be paying attention to what he said. I found that interesting. I'm curious what you guys think. I was expecting Scherzer, Scherzer of yore, to be really hard on himself. And I don't want to encourage guys to be so self-loathing or self-critical or whatever, because he was coming back after, over a month of not pitching, but it was uncharacteristic for him to be like, no, I think there's some good. I'm not going to focus on the bad. I'm just going to, try to stay positive. I thought that was an un-Scherzer-like way to respond to such a rough outing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that now the Astros won that game? All right, two games to one, they're still losing. Excuse me. You think the momentum has shifted now to the Astros side just because of this one game?
Well, they seem to love playing in this ballpark. So I think they thought the momentum had shifted just coming here. They should feel good because they have Yordan Alvarez, and that's a really good place for any postseason team to be. I don't know that momentum. I don't know that it was such a decisive game that, they feel like they're going to steamroll the Rangers. The Rangers came back. Their offense looked pretty good. Their bullpen hasn't been as bad as people feared. So I don't think that it necessarily looks like this is suddenly lopsided in the Astros' favor, which maybe some people thought going into the series. I think the Rangers still feel pretty good. But the Astros look really comfortable batting it in Arlington. And when they're comfortable, their lineup looks really good. Both these teams are getting pretty good production out of the bottom of their lineup. When Mauricio Dubon and Leody Taveras are getting hits, I think that makes the rest of the lineup feel really good in both clubhouses. So I don't know. I think tonight, this is a dumb thing to say because of course, but it's like, I think tonight will be really interesting because the Astros swept the Rangers here at the end of the regular season, and now they've won the first game. So it's like, come on, Rangers, like you got to take back a little bit of that home field advantage. You have to leverage the benefit you got sweeping or taking the first two games from the Astros in their ballpark, or else it's just, you've completely lost the advantage that gave you.
You did a little piece on Jose Leclerc, diving into Jose Leclerc. Tell us something about Jose Leclerc that you were like, because he's not known. He's not known around the league for what he's anchoring a team that right now, to me, is favored to go to the World Series.
He is very sweet, and his fellow bullpen pitchers say he's the quiet, relaxed one. I think bullpens tend to get a reputation of being really goofy, really rowdy. He certainly seems like more of a chill guy. I thought it was so interesting that he talked about, like, I tried to get him to say, like, did you ever picture this? I was like, okay, you're on the mound in the 9th inning. Like, can you imagine being there when the World Series ends and you guys win the championship? You'll be the guy on the mound potentially. And he was like, no, I never. He was so adamant. He was like, I never even imagined I would be in the majors. He said, growing up in the DR, I signed just for the bonus money. And I'm just, even in going into the postseason, didn't have any expectations necessarily of being their closer. And I don't know if that's what's serving him so well. Maybe he doesn't feel the pressure that some other pitchers might feel, like they, dreamed of this their entire lives. I also loved the story that I included in that piece, that he said a real turnaround for him came earlier this season when after he had scuffled a little bit in the beginning and Bruce Bochy chalked those scuffles up to injury. But then he went home one night and his older son, he's got two sons, said, "The Rangers won." And he said, "Yes, we won." And his son said, "It's a good thing you didn't pitch." So that moment, he really felt like, oh gosh, he said that it was his first realization that his sons understood baseball well enough to now see where he fits in, not just be excited about him, being a Major League Baseball player, but they can understand whether or not he's having a good streak or a bad streak. And he wanted to have a good streak for them.
That's really cool. When your kids get older, they say the darndest things, of course, but when they say it to your face and it's like, oh my God, this kid really understands. I'm stinking right now. Let's cross over in the Philly territory. I've said this before and I'll say it again. The last couple of years, is the stadium in Philadelphia, is that a real home field advantage? And I would say 100%. There's something about it. It's like a European soccer match, man. It is absolutely unbelievable over there.
It's unbelievable. I've had players who are not on the Phillies describe it as a football environment, as a compliment. And it's interesting because I understand the impulse around baseball to want to quantify things and be like, all right, is momentum real? Is home field advantage real? But when you go to Phillies games, you're like, it doesn't really, you can't deny that it is viscerally overwhelming. And I resisted it for a little while because I'm from Philly and I was like, okay, maybe I'm just biased. I'm just excited to be back. But the way that players and coaches around the league talk about it, I think is really a testament to not just the team and the fans, but the interplay that they have with one another. I love the way that different fan bases develop different personalities. I managed to just sort of incidentally finish the regular season in Seattle, both this year and last year. And that fan base is passionate and engaged, but in such a different way than Philly. They're really generous and sort of empathetic towards the players, whereas Philly fans really see themselves as a part of the attack on the opposition. They're in line with the players, but insofar as they want to be part of what the players are doing to beat the other team, which I think is just a different attitude than some fan bases have.
So explain that. And that is such a great explanation because so many people living 45 minutes from the stadium, they're like, oh, what is it like? Why is it different? You explain that perfectly. But explain how they do that. Explain how the fans, because not everybody's going to pay $500 to get a seat in the nosebleed section at Citizens Bank, and they may never experience it. How do they do that? How do fans? Because everyone asks me, and I try to explain it in my dumb words, but you have a way with words, so I want you to explain it.
Well, they're very loud, and this is to their credit and to their discredit. They're very specific. The Phillies fans are there to make somebody on the other team feel bad. When they're batting, it's the opposing pitcher. When the opposing team is batting, it's whoever is at the plate. They bring a real intensity to the animosity. I mean, this is I don't know. I thought this was fun. Maybe some people don't. When they were playing the Braves, the Phillies fans were chanting DUI at Marcell Ozuna, who had a DUI in his past. They came armed with Oppo research. They were there to not just root for their guys to get a hit, but they were there to be like, I hope this other team fails. And I hope you specifically, whoever is standing at the plate right now, I hope you fail and you feel bad about it too.
That's college level research, right? Sometimes the really hostile college crowds in basketball will have really specific signs and chants prepared. Kratz played with Orlando Arcia, and he has said he's just a happy-go-lucky, nice dude, right? Kratz, for the most part. He had that one snap moment, though, where he was having fun with the fans, all good. I'm watching that video.
Got him.
and he lost it for 1 sec, and Acuna was bringing him back. That's when you're like, this
tough.
group really can get under your skin, right? Kratz, like, you haven't seen him like that before, had you?
Never. I've seen it. I've seen him upset, like, oh, I messed up or whatever. But before, he was like, hey, I got a ring, and then he turns around and he starts yelling, Cállate, cállate.
Yeah,
and he's
they
like,
got him easily.
like the goofy stuff.
They were
But
swimming in his head, dude.
Yeah.
They were swimming. So as PA people, Hannah, this is what we do.
Totally.
This is what we do.
It's-
You do it in words.
It's a
You
knowledgeable, passionate fan base. I think
Yes.
that's the one thing I will say is I'm going to let my homerism take over for just a second and say,
Yes.
I want people to understand that like Phillies fans are not like some illiterate brutes who are just like, they know what they're doing and what they're watching, and they come to the ballpark ready to root for their guys and ready to root against the opposition, but not in this sort of like caveman-y way. I think that the stories from the past have made it seem like it's just a violent mob, and I don't think it's so much a violent mob as it is people who take a lot of pride in the home field advantage that the Phillies have enjoyed over the last 2 postseasons.
You must never been to an Eagles playoff game then. So we could. That's another.
I have
story.
not. To be clear,
that's another story we could talk about. Those fans there. Holy cow! Oh my God!
They're giving him an advantage though, Kratz in
No,
Philly, like for the baseball
they
team.
Are nasty.
Here's where, and Hannah might agree with me or disagree with me, but here's where I think it's gone up a notch now, because everyone hears about booing Santa Claus, throwing snowballs, blah blah blah. My parents' generation with the Phillies knew about the 64 Phillies, and they just thought every single team was going to fall and collapse. So they just sat there and they were like, it's probably going to be bad. Even my grandmother, I hit a game-tying home run one time, and she goes, well, nobody was on base. Like,
they find something wrong with it. Yeah.
They'll find something wrong with it.
100%,
Now,
that's how it was.
Now the Phillies fans have shifted. Like, there's no more people who have watched that. Those people are not the ones going to the stadium. It's a new generation of people who take that grit that I think Philly has as fans, and now they're like, oh yeah, and we're a boss team, and our owner wants to pay, and we're about to go to the World Series again.
I will say there are still some of those people, because those people are my parents, who last year would not let me put in for World Series tickets. The Baseball Writers Association of America lets us apply to get face value World Series tickets.
Yep.
And you have to do it before the World Series, so you don't know who's going to be in it. And I offered to do that for my parents, and they did not want that because they were so sure that the Phillies were going to let them down, that they didn't want to get their hopes up that they would even be playing in the World Series. And I was like, they don't charge you if they don't go. It's okay. You can, and no. So this year I put in for the World Series tickets for my parents. So we'll find out if it was a jinx.
Good for you.
Nice. I want to talk about Zach Gallen a little bit, Jersey guy. This comment here actually makes me happy because call him Pork Roll, the real name, because it is Pork Roll. Taylor Ham is the company, right? Yes. Can you agree with that with me? So did you get upset over the Scrapple comment? Was it over Scrapple?
Yes.
Oh, that Scrapple's absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
No,
there's no chance.
Scrapple
There's
is incredible.
no. Oh. Have you read Scrapple?
No.
Can you explain to him what Scrapple is?
I have. I've talked to Hannah about it.
I always say it wrong. People, I thought. Go ahead. You explain it.
Well, it's like a cornmeal mush that is seasoned with pork scraps and some spices, and then it's kind of congealed into a grayish, upsetting looking loaf that you slice, and you either deep fry it or you sear it on a skillet, and then you can serve it with syrup, kind of like sausage, or you put it on an egg sandwich. And I eat it for real. This is, I think I want to be clear about. It is not like a goof food. It is not like a, I don't know, deep fried Oreos or something at the county fair. You could go to my parents' house in South Jersey right now, open the fridge, open the drawer. There's Scrapple in the fridge. We eat it at home.
It's like
I
spam.
eat it at the Reading
It's basically
Terminal.
like eating spam. That's terrible.
It's delicious.
Oh,
it's delicious.
Well, on that note, I don't know how to get to the next topic because it's way more serious. But I did hear you talk the other day on your pod about Kim Ng and her departure from the Miami Marlins. We've covered it a lot the last few days. We're actually going to cover it a lot today. We have Britt Ghiroli coming on the show later on to go over this. Ken Rosenthal was very vocal about it. We all have been, because there is zero accountability right now in terms of an explanation. So give us your thoughts, and don't hold back on the optics of this situation that, in my mind, because like I heard you talking about, hey, you're taking all the pride in hiring the first female general manager, and then you're trying to like basically just bury the story in the middle of the playoffs. Like, I'm sorry, that's not how this works. And if you do hire the first female general manager, you might have to have, sure, it could not work out, but you're going to have more transparency, because this is a story that doesn't just get covered in sports. And I've actually been surprised because news stations were all over it when it first happened. I haven't seen almost any coverage of it at all besides this show and a few articles and podcasts.
Scott, that's a great point. You're right. I think that her hiring was seen as a watershed moment in industry, and to the way that it has kind of flown under the radar. First of all, I should say, you guys, I'm going to listen to you guys talk to Britt about it later, because she's done such incredible work on this from like a real reporter standpoint, and she's such an expert on how this all went down. So she's the real voice of expertise here. I just think it was so disappointing. I want to be careful on how I talk about this, because I don't want people to say like, oh, you think there's a double standard and women should get more leeway or whatever, because that's not true. And first of all, people were pretty mad when Chaim Bloom lost his job because they felt like he didn't get a fair shot. And there's, all this stuff being written about how the Red Sox might not be an attractive job because they have such short patience for their GMs. And we're talking like 4 years. And Kim Ng was not fired, but perhaps not appreciated enough after only 3 years. So we're being fair in that sense. But I also think, again, let me see how to say this without saying something incorrect. She's making progress. And when you come in as a GM, you already are working against the incumbents and whatever it is. And also just being a GM takes a long time to manifest on the field, because a lot of what you're doing is drafting and player development and trades for maybe minor leaguers who haven't come up yet. So, the first 2 years, you're not even really judging her work based on the product on the field. But beyond that, like, she's someone who had so many years of experience in baseball, but not at this level. And that is a direct sort of result of sexism. Like, we can say, I think, sort of unequivocally that like Kim Ng did not get a GM job before this because she was a woman. And so if she had been successful elsewhere, I think she would have gotten a longer leeway in Miami. Or, right, if she had been a proven championship builder, they would see the Marlins getting to the playoffs in 3 years as a sign that they were on the right path. And so in that way, even if they are judging her sort of fairly in the same way they would judge a man, they are being biased against her because they're using her lack of president of baseball operations type experience against her. And that is something that she couldn't control, because she interviewed for lots of GM jobs and it was widely known that she was overqualified. And so in that way, it's like maybe she could have taken a team with a bigger budget all the way to the pennant. And if she had done that in previous stops, would she have gotten a better chance in Miami? Maybe, probably. And in that way, like, you do have to be willing, if you are going to take the step of hiring a female GM, to give her a truly fair shot to show you what it is that she can do. And I don't know that they did that.
And the timing is insane. The Miami Marlins never make the playoffs. I live down there, so I can go over it. And also I know that, aside from the news part, which is weird, that like news publications, even just like sports spots that don't cover news specifically, baseball specifically, like ESPN, I'd be curious. I'm not watching enough to know, but I'd be curious. They were all over that story when it happened. Are they covering it a lot right now? I don't think so, but maybe I'm wrong. So. But I haven't seen much from them, and I follow them on social and all that, right? So for me, the team made it to the postseason. built
Right.
a better bullpen that fixed the 1-run record. She picked up Jake Berger and Josh Bell at the trade deadline. Like, I saw one article that was like, well, they signed like Segura and Gurriel. I'm like, yeah, for pennies. I mean, those were like low-level signings because they have no resources ever, the Marlins. The problem also in our sport right now too, Hannah, is like every team wants to be the Rays. There's one freaking Rays, right? Every team's like, oh, we should spend nothing and be great and just rely on analytics. Well, how is that working for everyone else? Not that well. So, and I know that there was an analytics discussion, which I think you got into, paints a bad picture for her too, because it's not like she's not using information behind the scenes. So I just think everything about this story right now smells, and it can be fixed if there's a conversation. I would think Kim is going to speak more publicly about it at some point, because we know the Marlins aren't going to speak publicly about it. They would love to shove it under the rug and just move the hell on.
I don't say this knowing anything, but I would not be surprised if she doesn't speak publicly about it, because if there has one thing that has defined Kim Ng's career, it is knowing that she can't publicly complain if she wants to continue to get opportunities in this industry. That was something that really stood out to me when she first got hired with the Marlins. And suddenly she was doing tons and tons of press, specifically talking about, of course, being the first female GM of a men's major sport, but also the path she took to get there and how overqualified she was. And that was sort of the first major moment in which she got to talk a little bit about having to do all these interviews for jobs that she knew were performative, and she knew they weren't taking her seriously. And she went a really long time not saying that publicly. And she is someone who has consistently, I think, done what she's needed to do to succeed in an industry that wasn't prepared to watch her succeed, at least not when she started her career.
Yep. And my thing is like, if the Marlins were a 100-loss team the last few years, like, cool, like, okay, we get it, so it just hasn't been the case. But good discussion. Hannah, have fun out there. Enjoy the rest of the postseason. We'll try and get some like more entertaining games for you. Maybe some comebacks, some lead changes, stuff like that. And then we'll catch you in a few weeks.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Always great to have you. Hannah Keyser, at Hannah R. Keyser, to follow her on Twitter. And you can see then articles and pod and everything else that she's doing. Does a great job. Britt Ghiroli is going to join us in this show, and also Ken Rosenthal. We'll be right back.
Yeah, I understand the Braves were frustrated with how that series went, and so they kind of were a little bit on the defensive. But the media has a job and a responsibility. It's just part of the game, and obviously, media grows the game. This is why you have so many players coming on this show, is because we're trying to grow the game, because you guys are great. It's the media has a responsibility to tell what's going on, and if they're in the clubhouse, then that's not your private sanctuary. Everyone knows that when the media is in there, that's a different time period. None of us talk the same when the media is in there that when right before the game when they're not in there. And you need to know that if there's 100 people in the Braves clubhouse, then that what you say is possibly going to get tweeted out. Now, it wasn't a big deal. It should have been a big deal. They just kind of turned it into a big deal instead of saying like, well, he made a base running error and ended the game. Like I just said that. Like I think the Braves turned it into a thing where the Phillies could use it as motivation. If they would have squashed it, I don't really think it would have been that big of a deal. And that's in my opinion. Now, I wasn't in that clubhouse and I don't know exactly how they felt, or, I'm trying not to get Bryce all riled up. He's already pretty good. I probably wouldn't have taken a shot at him no matter what. We don't need him to be extra motivated, but I just think they kind of turned it into a bigger deal than it should have been. It just really like Jake tweeted it out, and that's the end of that. Like, okay, then you just say like, I said it because he made a base running error, and that's the end of that. But once they turned it into a thing, and then then we have people taking shots at people. It just really got a little bit ugly, and then it turned into a huge story instead of like, I just said he made a base running error when he did.
And now back to foul territory.
Hey, we got 2 games to choose from the next couple days. Let's get it. All right. Your BetMGM locks for what day is it? Thursday.
Yes.
With 2 games. But first off, we always keep receipts. And
always.
You didn't get your walk, Kratz.
That's why they lost. You can't let that man hurt you. Can't let him hurt you.
They should have walked him, you're saying?
Yes.
Yes.
Would have kept the game closer.
Were you following what I had going on? Because, I mean,
yeah,
I wasn't too concerned about the runs, obviously, once they got to Scherzer early. I was concerned about the Ks. Not as much for Javier, even though, he ended up only with 3, right?
We only had 3. Yeah, I was surprised
Scherzer
on
was
that.
the concern. Scherzer picked up a couple Ks at the end there, which I think he ended up with 4. But that was fun. I was watching that on the plane. Banger. All right, so there's money bags. This is the crew. If you're into successful picks, as you can see, you add up the totals. We have had quite a year.
I'm coming for Erik, man, right now.
On the dough. All right, let's get it then. Let's see what you got. Your BetMGM locks for Thursday. Are you picking from the NLCS or the ALCS?
No, I'm sticking NL.
Okay.
I call it NL, not even
NL.
NL.
What do you got in the NL?
I'm sticking with them fightings, man. You got Ranger Suarez, Lone Ranger going to the desert, money line, fighting Phils. They win by, I'm going to say 4-3. It's going to be a close one.
You think, okay, so
money
no
line.
Run line,
No,
money line.
No, we're on money line at -125. Phils, 5 to win 4. Here they come.
Were you surprised it was -125?
A little bit.
Yeah, I thought it'd be a little higher.
And then I'll be honest with you. Fought the rookie sensation. He's got a heavy fastball that gets by people. He's a good pitcher. They might get him in the beginning, but they're not hitting. The Diamondbacks aren't hitting right now, so we'll see how that goes.
And this is their game 7 too, Kratz. Like, obviously, if you lose, you're done.
They need it. They need it.
They're not coming back from 3-0. Facts.
Ask Big Poppy that.
I did yesterday.
That's why I said it.
Kratz, what do you got?
Yeah, I think Fott's sweeper will be the big thing. How much will his sweeper sinker combo? Because he will run the fastball 4-seamer up, but to righties, if he can't neutralize the righties, it is going to be a quick night for him. But I got fought, not fought, fought with 3 punchies and Ranger with 3 punchies for a little +100 action.
Nice. Which one are you more worried about?
Neither. Why I didn't put it higher?
Oh,
put
it higher.
I think Rangers.
Don't talk about it. Be about it.
I think the Rangers is the one that I'm a little more worried about because there's some success. Christian Walker's the guy. Christian Walker for me. I'm also going plus 135 on 1.5 hits. 1.5 bases. He's handled him well, and Ranger has to be able to move it to different quadrants of the zone. He doesn't do that very well, and if you can't do that against Christian, it's tough sledding.
I like that second one. I'm telling that one. And then I'm going to keep it simple. I got Astros money line. This was the one I had in my head anyway for the Astros to take. I was a little more curious of Scherzer as a wild card of what he would look like, right?
Where's this one at? Minus what?
This one is -105 for the Astros to take a dub. Okay.
There
it is. So I think their offense woke up. I think Urquidy showed me some signs of improvement in his last start. And obviously your manager giving you a little bit of leeway and some swing and miss there. He had a good amount of swing and miss in the zone. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. Heaney and Dunning, I think, aren't great matchups for the Astros bats. So you're not going to get a ton from either. Then they're going to piggyback most likely in my mind. And the Astros have handled some of their pitches pretty well when I was matching it up numbers wise. So I got just nice and simple Astros with a dub. And for everyone else, FOUL 200 is the bonus code. Listen to Jamie Foxx. Bet 10, get 200 instantly when you place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the BetMGM Sportsbook app. It's got to be at least $10. Then you'll receive $200 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. And gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll be right back to go over the results from the poll and get you set up for hour number 2 of FT Live with Ken Rosenthal and Britt Ghiroli.
And there we have different personality, I'm the guy that I always like to be messing around, laughing, this and that. But I would beat your ass.
I like Altuve.
Like when the game time shows up, I'm your number one enemy. AJ and me, we have a lot of back and forth while we play because once you cross those lines, the friendship is over. You know what I'm saying? You got to do what you got to do for your ball club. I got to do what I got to do for my ball club. Game over, we go back. Next day, back into the fight because that's how you handle the business. Derek was the same way. I mean, this guy, he was a straight up business. He don't say much, and I respect that. You know what I'm saying? I respect that. Now that we work together, the human, the person, I mean, I love this dude, to be honest with you. I love Derek. There is like it's a very respectful person. And to me, education goes beyond everything. And that's what he showed. I mean, we get to spend a lot of time together. Now, last night we were sitting down here in the hotel at the bar watching the game last night. And there is a guy that it's fun to be around him, to be honest with you, because the guy, man, the way he manages himself is incredible. And I tell you what, I want to play the Yankees to watch him. I'm not gonna lie to you. I want to compete against the Yankees to watch him, the way he handled the business, because he was very professional. Derek never got caught up into any crap. I remember we had those battles where Braun used to come in, and I never used to see Derek dropping punch, doing anything stupid. Derek was always calming people down, and go by the business, and that's something that I never forget. You know what I'm saying?
And now, back to foul territory.
What's up? I actually have a couple updates on the games tonight. I'll get to that in a sec. But first off, the poll is Red Sox by a landslide for where people think Kim Ng is going to end up. So I guess they think she might end up getting that front office job. I don't know. Kratz is shaking his head. Okay.
You never know.
Seeing what
haven't
else
heard
is,
anything.
Haven't heard anything, and seeing all the other names they're getting thrown out there saying, I'm good.
Everyone.
I
think the only one I saw was Thad Levine, and I know they've talked about former player. I'm forgetting his name.
Brandon Gomes.
No, that's the Dodgers dude. No, he doesn't want it. Breslow?
No. Sam Fold.
Nope, not Fold.
Craig Breslow was there.
Maybe Breslow was being talked about. I don't know.
He was being talked about, but that's a smart dude. And if people are
smart dude. He likes he doesn't want to be fired in a year and a half, no matter what happens, right?
Totally.
If you lose, you're fired. If you win, you're fired. If you're mid, you're fired.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. So they watched what was that show? Whatever. Anyway,
whoever it is, just get a rental. Don't buy a house. Just get a rental.
Exactly. And demand a ton of money and
up front.
And a big buyout if they fire you. So two things. One, some fans in the chat are like, what's the deal with them now opening the roof tonight in Texas? And actually, Rangers PR said, consistent with guidelines used during the regular season, MLB has determined Globe Life Field roof will be open for tonight's Game 4. It'll be the first time it's open for a Rangers game since May 21st against the Rockies.
It's going to be sticky.
May 21st. And I guarantee you right now, the line has moved up probably a half a run or a run or something like that because there's more offense when the roof is open. So keep an eye on that. I don't know who that helps or hurts or whatever. And then also lineup change, Diamondbacks. Gabriel Moreno moves up to the 3 spot. Emmanuel Rivera, third baseman, is going to make his first start of this series. Longo's DHing, and Tommy Pham has the turf toe he's been dealing with, is now out in right field. That's a lot of changes.
That's a lot of changes. And Pham gives you a lot of good at-bats, but Emmanuel Rivera, I had him down here as somebody that I was thinking I might get a couple bases because you're getting some decent money on him there because he has swung it really, really well against Rangers. So I'm not surprised they put him in there.
Okay. I have a lot of bets to place this evening right after
You're
the
in
show.
trouble.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
That's a lot.
And in hour number 2, we're going to flip over to the Foul Territory YouTube channel. Ken Rosenthal is already roaring, ready to go. And Britt Ghiroli is going to talk to us about 30 minutes after that. We'll get more on the story that she covered with Kim Ng. And I want to circle back with Britt to the Nationals because she covers them as well as anyone. And they've made a ton of changes too, kind of secretly and quietly. You know, you get the firings during this month sometime, and obviously people aren't paying attention to it. If it happens in November, it gets a lot more coverage because it's the only thing going on in baseball. So we'll get to that too in just a sec on FT Live. We'll take some of your questions and have some fun here in hour 2. And one more reminder for everyone, this group right here, we have 2 more times this year that you can say hi to us in person or experience Foul Territory live at Borgata in Atlantic City. Okay.
It's going to be lit in the playoffs.
2.
We will be there. 2 times left. 1 o'clock Eastern. We'll be there on Friday. We'll be right back on FT YouTube.
So I can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me, and I can't hold it much longer. Gonna let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
FT Live, let's go. Ken Rosenthal covering the ALCS, joining us right now. Erik Kratz being weird. Ken, good to see you. What did you think of Game 3? Do you feel like this completely changes the complexion of the series with how, Scherzer was not there command-wise and what it looks like going forward here with them going Urquidy against probably, a tandem starter situation?
The complexion of the series. And John Smoltz talks about this all the time. Of course, he was in so many playoffs. And he says, one game, the narrative shifts. And yes, the narrative has shifted. The Astros, we know, are a team capable of coming back from 2-0, especially when they're on the road, because they have this weird thing when they play better on the road. And I would say the matchup tonight, Urquidy versus the Heaney-Dunning combination, which is the most likely scenario for the Rangers, is favorable for the Astros. And then you have Verlander in Game 5, and things set up pretty well. And, if this goes Game 7, you're getting Mr. October, Christian Javier. So who knows how this will turn out. The Rangers are a fantastic team. I love watching them play. They did some things last night really well, even though they lost. So we'll see. Just have to play it out.
So does the narrative shift because of the history that we know? Or does the narrative shift based on what you saw from their players? A guy like Altuve actually gets some hits who hadn't got hits. Tucker hadn't been on base. Now he gets on base twice. So is it the predetermined narrative that we have in our head? The Astros are so good. Christian Javier is going to pitch Game 7. Or was it what you saw on the field that made it shift?
That's a great point, Erik. It's what I saw and what we all saw on the field. They put up 8 runs last night. They hadn't hit really the first 2 games the way they wanted to. Alvarez is impossible to get out right now, for the most part. You have Altuve, yes, did some better things last night. Tucker really looked much better with 3 walks and a double. They have Brantley, they have Dubon, they have some things going here. And it's just, they're the Astros, man. They're there every year, and they're a team you cannot count out. We know this. We watch this. Then when they get down 2-0, you start to wonder, is this it? I wrote that. Is this it now? But here they come. And listen, I just can't wait to get to the park today and see what happens tonight. And then hopefully we have a good long series here because these two teams are quite evenly matched in certain ways and they're quite good. So it's fun to watch them go at each other.
Ken, there are some topics in baseball, in life, that fans and people, outside the game just love talking about. Weather / the roof situation is one of them. It just pops up on social all the time. And this is like the all roof debate series because they talk about it all the time in Houston for years. I've always been a part of it where fans are like, why is it open? Or why are they closing it? And who's making the calls and whatever. And now we have that situation going down with Globe Life Field. So just wanted to see if you have any thoughts on the matter. And I do think it can impact a game. I mean, I know in Globe Life, like the ball will probably travel a little bit further with the roof open.
Scott, you're absolutely right. And the players say that, the coaches say that the ball is definitely more prone to fly when the roof is open. Now, generally speaking, pitchers in particular like it closed because they want conditions controlled. And the players, too, in many cases want it closed, especially when we have a late afternoon start and the shadows are a factor. You can understand all that. But you have certain times during the postseason when the weather is beautiful and you say to yourself, what the heck is going on here? Why is it closed? Now, in this particular park, my understanding is that the dew point and the humidity are factors when MLB makes its decision because I guess the pipes up top can drip, something like that. I don't know. But tonight it'll be open. It's a beautiful day here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So it should be a lot of fun to see the game under the elements. It's the way the game is meant to be played. We know that. These stadiums have roofs for a reason. We know that too. The roof at Globe Life hasn't been open since May 21st. Why? Because it's hot as heck in the summer here. So it'll be fun tonight to have it open.
Hey, my question to you, Ken, I want to talk about Evan Carter real quick, how great he's been, this emerging young superstar, and how he's going to be great for years to come, which I think as well. But this might sound silly, but, the guy batted ninth, he's batted fifth, now he's batting third. Can that, I don't know, lack of better word, can that take a toll on a younger guy being like, all right, a little more pressure now? All of a sudden, now they're looking for him to do bigger things. I'm not questioning Bruce Bochy, but I'm thinking those Josh Young and the bottom of the lineup and him, they dominated that 8 and 9 hole. Can there be something to that a little bit?
I don't know, Todd. I've been around this kid for a couple of weeks now, and he is unflappable. He's one of these guys that is just enjoying himself, enjoying playing in this environment, and the Rangers feel that he can handle anything. And last night, my goodness, Christian Javier is rolling, right? He allows the 2-run homer to Young, but he gets knocked out when Carter hits a 109-mile-per-hour shot over Kyle Tucker's head on a fastball, which, of course, is Javier's dominant pitch. So I have yet to see this kid be overwhelmed by anything. And for that reason, he's fine in the number 3 spot. He's fine seemingly wherever they put him.
Have these been good games? We've had kind of blowouts. Hannah Keyser was just on, and she said the games have kind of been I'm a huge baseball fan. You're a huge baseball fan. I find so much. I feel like the games go so fast. They're not boring. Yes. But have they been good games?
No, Erik, it's a great question, and I'm with Hannah. And Tom Verducci and I, on the way back to the hotel last night, were actually talking about this. The postseason could use a couple of classics. We really haven't had those kinds of electrifying games yet for the most part. There have been a couple. So I'm with Hannah here. I do believe I'd like to see a game end late and turn a couple times during the game. We haven't seen that. But I'm like you also, Erik, that there's so much in these games. They're so rich that I'm never bored or anything by them. But have they been as competitive as maybe we would all like? Probably not.
Let me ask you this too as well. The dugout, I know you get your conversations in. Have you gotten any backlash from that? And how's that been going with the players? Because I really enjoy, like, after a home run, you get to talk to a guy like Altuve. And, like, how's that been going?
It's going fine. And there was some backlash from fans on social media last year. But, Todd, every time I open my mouth or write something, there's backlash from fans on social media. So I'm kind of immune to it by now. It was jarring for people last year, certainly, to see this, and I understand that. I don't necessarily believe it's our place to be in the dugout. But when Fox first came to me and they came to Tom as well about this idea, we embraced it. And we embraced it because, one, it's not terribly intrusive. We're in there for, I don't know, a minute or two. There's 2 questions max, 1 oftentimes as well. And we're out. That's it. We're out of there. It doesn't disrupt the broadcast. Everyone still gets to see what's going on in the field. And it does give insight, this is the most important thing, into what players are thinking in the moment. And that's the idea, to capture their emotions in the moment. And it can be really telling at times to see how a guy reacts to a big moment. Remember last year, Bryce Harper hit that home run off Suarez in the NLCS, the series clinching home run. And to have him available for an interview right after that was one of the cooler things in my career, to be perfectly honest. So it's going well. Now, some players say no. We have a list of players who approved it, and we have a list of players who don't. Obviously, if a player doesn't want to do it for whatever reason, he doesn't have to. Some players just don't like being distracted in any way during the game. Some have told me, Ken, I'm afraid of what I'm going to say on live TV in the moment. So it's all good, and it goes how it goes, and I'm sure we'll have some moments tonight that will be conducive to those interviews.
So one more look behind the curtain. You know who will say yes. What is the next step? When something happens, how do you decide who you're going to actually talk to? Obviously, you're mostly looking for those big moments. Is it the communication with the production team, and then you go to the PR and then to the player? What's the play-by-play?
Scott, this is a good question too, and it is interesting. So the first thing I will do is ask my producer, do we want him? Producer says yes. Producer says no. 2 outs. Generally, we don't do it. Obviously, we're going to go to commercial. And then we have a text chain with myself, a representative from Major League Baseball, and Rangers or Astros public relations representatives. And I will say, okay, are we good here? And that's how we go about it. It all happens pretty quickly. It sounds like a lot, but it's not. And then what I'll do is move from the camera well to the dugout. Different parks have different entrances. In this park, Globe Life, I have to walk out onto the field and then down the stairs into the dugout. I'm at the far end of the dugout from the manager. So I'm not disrupting the manager or pitching coach. That would not be good. And what I'll do is kind of make my way down the dugout a little bit, not going too far, and try to get the attention of the player. The player says yes or no. Even a player who is on the approved list can say, not right now. And then we go from there.
So a way to appreciate your friends, your coworkers, is to wear something custom of theirs. We saw what Maldonado did. When are you going to wear some FT foul territory shoes?
Well, if you guys make me some FT foul territory shoes, I will wear them. It was last year, I think, or 2 years ago, I wore sneakers that had the Athletic logo, the Fox Sports logo, it must have been 2 years ago, and the MLB Network logo, and we auctioned them off. It was really cool. So if you want to do something like that, Erik, I'm game, man.
What size are you? 7s?
I'm not going to admit that on television or even or whatever.
What?
FT bow tie too, by the way.
I'll say this, Erik. You're a good guesser.
Thank you.
You won't say it on TV. Come on, man.
I love those. Did you like those cleats that
Oh yeah, I love
them.
I need them. Need them downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ken, I want to talk to you about Jose Altuve a little bit. He's a couple homers away from being the top dog in most home runs in the playoffs. I think that's incredible for a leadoff hitter as well, man. What have you seen from him so far?
Well, until last night, he was struggling, and he was going through one of those phases that hitters go through from time to time. But he is one of the more remarkable players, honestly, that we've ever seen. And you can see when I interview him, it's the only guy in the game, for the most part, that I'm eye to eye with. And he is muscular, but he's not overly muscular, and yet he gets to balls that no one else can get to. John Smoltz highlighted last night that ball down that he swung through and then got a hit on the next pitch. The ball he hit for the home run was at the top of the zone, if not above. It might have been out of the zone. So he does remarkable things, bat to ball, that no other player has done. And I know fans get all over him. And I'll go back to what was said In 2019, after our report on the sign stealing and after baseball penalized the Astros, I interviewed Carlos Correa. This was on camera for MLB Network, and he was adamant that Altuve was not part of this. Later data showed that he was not part of this. I know fans identify him with it, and they think about the buzzer and all that. Stop it. Just stop it. This guy is a great player. He's been a great player for several years since this all happened, if you're still thinking he's cheating. So, really, Jose Altuve is someone worthy of our admiration and respect, and he is just so much fun to watch.
I respect. I was part of that 17 team. The respect factor to me, I would say, okay, I respect that he's a good player, but what he did, the respect factor still, I had to chime in there.
No, Todd, I get it.
Understand.
But of all the players on that team, he's
Sure,
the one
sure.
that the players have said didn't do it. So you can say, well, they're cheaters, so why wouldn't they be liars? Yeah,
Understand.
I get it.
Understand.
I get it all. But the new rules have been in place since 2020.
He's
We're in
been
2023.
unbelievable. He's been an unbelievable player.
He's still
And
Altuve.
I agree. It still stings a little bit. That's all.
I understand that, and it should, man. It's not good.
No doubt.
And I would couple what Correa said. If there was somebody, because I wasn't there in 17, but I know Altuve as a person. We flew to Japan together. We played for a little bit in 16 together. I would say he didn't. If there's somebody that fans can forgive, it would be him. But forgiveness is all in the person forgiving.
Erik, it's funny because I'll say this kind of thing from time to time, and people will tell me I'm an Astros apologist. If people remember who wrote the story with Evan Drellick about the sign stealing scandal,
exactly.
It was this guy, me. And it's not apologizing for them, but it is important to try to put things in context and to be fair. There's no question what they did was horrible. Horrible. But at the same time, of the available information we have, we can only go off what people have said. There is data that reflects that he did not do it as well or did not do it to any extent. And we've seen his performance since the new rules were instituted. At some point, you have to look at the balance of all of that has happened.
Okay, I want to take the fans really deep into Ken Rosenthal's life because you said you were on the bus with Tom Verducci before. And so when you're talking to Tom, in this picture, are you mixing like a tape for everybody? Like, are you making a mixtape?
Let me explain this picture. So AJ Przinsky was demanding a picture of me on the bus because he thought I was flying private, which is just a crock. So we did take this bus, we called it the Fox Party bus, from Houston to Dallas. And that was me sitting in the back. I wasn't mixing anything. I was trying to listen to what players had said to me and quote them accurately in what I was writing. And I wrote that story on the bus. I have obviously some physical challenges. You can take one look at me and know that. But I do have some unique qualities or, I don't know, weird things. I'm a certain age and I don't wear reading glasses. And I have the ability to write or do anything I want on the computer while in transit, in a bus, car, train, wherever. And it doesn't bother me at all. It bothers other people. And there were people who got off that bus who had a little bit of a stomach ache, put it that way. But I was just writing there. I was writing my story, and that was that.
You have great balance. You have great inner balance. That's what creates that's what it is. Maybe writing's not quite your thing. Maybe it should be like parkour or something. But that seat you stole?
I mean, I'm colorblind. I'm short. I've had 2 back surgeries. There are all kinds of flaws.
I get car sick back there.
There are certain things I've still got going for me, and that's one of them. I don't get car sick. Yeah.
Your superpower. And you took that. That's a flex by you, taking that seat. That is the seat on the party bus that everybody wants. So good for you.
Leg room for Kratzy.
Good for
I was
you.
like the last guy on the bus, so I don't know if I would agree with that. But yeah, it was cool.
Back middle. Come on.
Back middle's a flex.
You get your legs out there, Kratzy.
Well, Ken, enjoy the next one here, and we'll grab you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Appreciate it. You too.
Cheers.
Ken Rosenthal covering the ALCS, going from Texas to Houston, Houston to Texas via party bus. Exactly how we thought Fox would get the job done.
There's definitely a poll in that bus. It just didn't show up in the picture.
Not a poll like how we do poll questions.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about a question.
Yeah. Hey, Most people have been on a party bus, right?
Especially with lights like that. They don't just put lights like that on the airport shuttle bus.
No,
I just like the
airport shuttle
seatbelt,
bus.
like almost choking him too. It's great.
He's safe. Safety first. All right.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Britt Ghiroli is going to join us in like 15 minutes. Let's hit some hot corner topics. Let's bounce around the league. We do have our Yankee specialist right here, so we'll get his thoughts on this one. Who's really vocal on social is Gary Sheffield Jr.
Oh yeah, he's
very opinionated, right?
No, he's been doing that for years. Man.
Yeah,
saying it with his chest.
He's not afraid. I love it.
Jr. said the Yankees' first move this offseason shouldn't be acquiring Juan Soto, a mega offer to Ohtani, or even an arm overseas. It should be unloading Giancarlo Stanton packaged with whichever prospects or money necessary to make that happen. I enjoyed his peak years, but it's a wrap. So, first off, if you do feel that way, right? Why you're the Yankees? You don't package prospects just to unload money. The Yankees have money. You don't have to worry about that. That's a small market team kind of situation. I mean, my thing is, and I get it, owners don't want to like eat a bad decision. If you feel like that's the direction you want to go and they're the Yanks and no team wants to take him on, I mean, you can eat up almost all the money and then see if a team wants to take him, or you can cut the player. That stuff has happened. Chris Davis eventually was cut. There's a few others. I know it's really hard to stomach for some people. I'm saying if that's the decision that you want to make, the last thing the Yankees should be doing is attaching prospects to a contract to unload a contract. That's my point.
I don't necessarily agree with that part of it, because Hal Steinbrenner has flat out said he does not want to go over a certain level of luxury tax to keep feeding these bottom feeder teams more money that he's already giving them a ton of. Pay off some of the salary or whatever, give prospects so they pay off the salary. That's a salary. It's not a salary cap, but that's a salary cap issue. And I'm all on board with the way Hal talks about that. So that part I disagree with. The part that Sheffield said about getting rid of him, I couldn't more disagree with. 2022, this guy was an all-star. Does anybody remember the injury that he had after the All-Star break to then play through and finish out his season with a 759 OPS? The same injury that he then ended up having again last year and saw him running the bases at a slower than Kratz pace. The guy was playing through things. So I don't know if they do over-unders before the season of what somebody's going to do, but I'm not getting rid of this guy. And I promise you, if he is available for a palatable price, there will be 25 other teams ready to pick him up.
Yeah, he's a game changer, and that's what I look for in an athlete. I look at guys that can change games, that are a guy that's going to put one in the seats. He's still got a really good arm as an outfielder. Is he moving around the same? No, but as you get older, that stuff does happen. But he is an absolute beast. I understand what he's saying about the money, but you're not going to package your prospects. That's number one. They got a couple guys coming up here that are going to help the club, if not help the club already. And they just need to get healthy, man. Like you said, these have to get healthy. If the team is healthy, it's a different story. So it's going to be a weird offseason. We'll see what happens, though, in Yankee land.
I don't think they should get rid of him, and I don't think they will.
Gotcha.
He hits the ball way too freaking hard, and the Yankees want to get every single person that hits the ball hard. Did he have a bad year this year? Absolutely. Sure. You switch me and Giancarlo Stanton right now, he would sit here and say, I had a bad year.
He has a full no trade clause, which we forgot, Derek. Thank you.
Oh.
Yeah, he turned down the Cardinals and the Giants in December of 2017. About that. Yeah. And ended up with the Yankees.
He will be back. I don't know what you want to set.
I think he loves it. He loves it there too. Just from seeing, hanging out with Judge and the boys. Come on.
I don't know what you want to see say his OPS is going to be next year. You set it, and I'll tell you over under. But I'm taking a lot of overs.
Okay.
805.
Over.
Okay. If you're in the mid-8s, if you get in the mid-8s, for the most part, it's a productive player.
After a year and a half of an under 700 OPS, he still has a career 878 OPS. And I get it, he had an MVP year. He's had 1 year over 1,000. This guy's been uber consistent at the end of the year with his numbers. I get it. He's up and down. Even the year that he won the MVP, he had like 25 home runs in like a week and a half. He was just unconscious. So I get it that you're going to be streaky. But this dude is an absolute beast. I'm saying 825 is his OPS next year.
He is
just got to be healthy. That's it. That's all.
Here's the one thing you're not thinking about, okay?
Oh. Dun, dun, dun.
He's about to turn 34 years old. Age is real. And when you have a body that is
I thought he was older than that, though. Sorry to interrupt
34
you.
though. That's not nothing for a dude that's taken some hits. And I mean injury-wise, right? Okay. Everybody has a clock that eventually starts a decline/injury situation. I mean, you guys know you played. Not just for you guys, the guys you've been around, right? Who feel like they're Superman. How many guys you've been around who are like, oh, I'm good. I'm good for a while. I'm Superman. I'm invincible, whatever. And then it's like 32 and he's out of the league. It happens.
Oh, yeah.
It happens every freaking year. I'm just pointing that out, that there could be a situation where sometimes the body breaks down and can't recover the same way from certain injuries. How many guys do you talk to also that are in their 30s, especially, that say, yo, it's been the back, man, for years. It's been the knee. Yeah. It's been the right. It's something chronic that they can't kick.
It catches up.
I'm just throwing that out there. There is a chance that next year looks like this year.
Yeah, certainly.
So you think, what if I say, is he going to be closer to 825, like I said, or 750? Which one are you choosing?
750.
See, I feel like this guy, the way he works, the way he is focused on things he needs to do, and he doesn't have injuries like you just said, back, knee, ankle. It's like, it's fascial injuries. It's muscles, it's hamstrings, it's calves, that kind of thing. And the way he works will enable him to stay out there on the field. Plus, there's going to be less on him with Judge in the lineup the whole year. Obviously, it's all about staying healthy. But to me, you can't say, oh, he has to stay healthy and then disregard the fact that he played through serious injuries that were not all reported and he still played through them to have the numbers that he had. You follow what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't need to have a like completely just perfect swing to have success.
I'm cool with streakiness. Here's my thing. And I think 805 is even too low, right? We're talking 850. He's got to be an 850 plus OPS player, like 850 or higher, right? And here's why. I don't trust the outfield situation long term. He played about 30 games in the outfield this year. It's the same thing. You're getting older. You've had injuries. This is an older team that either A, needs to use that DH spot and circulate it around, or B, I mean, there's still a small portion of fans that think they're going to get Ohtani. And newsflash, he only is a DH. He's not suddenly hopping into the outfield as far as I know. So I'm just saying he's going to take up that spot for you, Kratz. He better fucking bring it. That's what I'm saying.
30 homers. 30 homers. Do you say Giancarlo gives you 30 homers and you're happy?
No, I'm looking at OPS. It's got to be more than just homers, because if he's never getting on base, and also, I mean, Josh Donaldson hit like 15 homers and barely played last year, right? I need a little more. Is he getting on base, right? Is there doubles pop, the whole deal? So I'm more on the OPS side. It's got to be 850 or better in my mind, and he's got to be on the field. Otherwise, it's just a mishmash. So I'm not saying get rid of him for nothing. I'm just saying I understand the complaints here from Yanks fans, and this is part of a bigger problem for them. And we can get into this for a couple minutes because we haven't for a while. We haven't talked about this team for like a month at all.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of players right now who are coming off down years, injury-plagued years. They signed a lot of dudes that are in their mid-30s, and the talk is they got to get younger. They got to get more athletic, the whole deal, right? I feel like I've done that story with the Yanks multiple times. There was a time where I remember, in my old job, we were like, do the Yanks have 4 DHs? It happens a lot when you bring in players, then you keep them, then you spend on more vets. The mistake they made is that they didn't go after the young free agents that wanted to go there. Bryce Harper would have played for the Yanks. Machado, you can make your cases, but like those guys were free agents at a young age. And I think that signing a player like that would have made a massive difference. They have made some weird moves in terms of their transactions, right? And also they are looking for bargains. Like they thought they freaking ripped the Twins with how they pulled off Donaldson and IKF. And they messed up. They got them Correa, and Correa's been, I mean, up and down regular season, but look what he just did for them in the playoffs.
Yes, I understand the whole Twins thing, but and I think that's where some of the mistakes might lie, is they still believe that they got the deal in that, because based on a WAR, based on a output of the players they brought in, they actually had a positive output over what they got rid of in Gary and Gio.
But it was a money thing. It was a money thing. I'm not looking at WAR. I think it was a money thing.
But you're talking about like
that
at the beginning of the season,
something $million, you know.
We'll check the receipts. How far did you have the Yankees going at the beginning of the season?
I had them as a wild card team.
So you had them making the playoffs.
Yeah, kind of by default. Some of those, I didn't, but yes.
Absolutely.
And hey,
but
I
I'm
didn't
saying
think
you had them at the beginning of 2022, at the beginning of 2023, the same place as you had them in 2022. Like, this team's now old because they lost, because they didn't make the playoffs? Or were they old when you were making your predictions? You know what I mean?
They were old last year.
But then why'd you pick them to make the playoffs?
Ooh.
They still have talent.
Exactly.
I picked them to be a wild card team. But, dude, my point is, like, years pass, and there is generally an age curve and a decline. It's just how it is.
Sure.
Some dudes can go past the test of time, and some don't. It's just that, like, just like you have, like, kind of lottery tickets, right? Like, to me, there's a lot of lottery tickets that are like, this dude's been hurt a lot lately. This dude's in his mid-30s. Like, I think Rizzo will bounce back, okay? But I don't think that's the problem. I think fans are worried about DJ LeMahieu. I think they're worried about Giancarlo Stanton, right?
Can I finish
You
on
watch
this
them
point?
all the time.
Let me finish on this point. It's a serious thing now to worry about health in this game of baseball. There's been so many more injuries, whether it's the training, whether it's not eating right, whatever it is at the end of the day. Now, say you got Stanton as your DH. What happens if Rizzo gets hurt again and he can only DH? What happens if, Judge gets it? You know what I mean? So it's like you have to look at these situations where it's like, all right, we have to prepare for this. We have to prepare for that, instead of just going in the season. All right, everybody's healthy. We're good to go. This is just the way baseball is now, because it's inevitable that somebody's going to get injured. And it's sad to say, we're going to pick this guy, but you're picking a guy and trying to understand, like, all right, how many games is he going to give me this year? We don't know. And it's not been a lot of games for some of those guys on the Yankees. And I think that's the biggest problem.
Mm-hmm. Good shit.
That's it.
We'll have a lot of off-season time to go over that too, of course. Let's bring in our next guest on FT Live.
Let's go.
The Athletics' Britt Ghiroli, and sometimes FT host Britt Ghiroli. What's going on, Britt? You having fun? You're on ALCS, right?
Yeah. Well, I got kicked out of the Slack channel. I was going to pop in and talk shit.
I didn't know that's how it's going on behind the scenes. The production team kicks you out. Well, we'll bring you back in soon. So do you want to? I'll give you the option. Do you want to start? And we talked a lot about ALCS, or do you want to like jump right into the good stuff, because you've done a great job covering the Kim Ng story this week?
I'll let you guys pick. I mean, I am ready to talk about really
Kim,
whatever you want.
Kim,
We can go Kim. I mean, I
Done.
declined housekeeping. I made my bed for this by myself, so I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's go.
She knows.
Okay.
She
Did
knows.
you wash
She's
your
an
hands
FT
afterward? Everything good? You're good to go. Let's rock.
She's an FT legend. When Scott leaves, we bring Britt in, and she knows that the bed's not made.
I will disappear.
Yep.
Got to do it. Kratzy, I had a reporter who went on recently. I'm not going to out them, but they were like, wow, Erik Kratz asks good questions. Like, I think they had a like low bar in their head. I was like, yeah, they all ask good questions. He was like, yeah, Kratz for a player, like, ask good questions. I'm like, you guys have spent how long, you and Todd, listening to us ask questions? Like, come on. It's not that hard.
I wonder what they said about me. Probably.
Must have been AJ on that show.
Yeah, thank you. All right, that helps. Thank you. That helps.
Kratz
I
has
want
asked
you to
a
go.
good
I want you to go to Kim.
Yeah, so let's
All
do
right.
it. Okay.
I'm visceral. I just get more and more mad about this. So you need to either calm me down or stoke the fire.
And there you go.
I
And-
wish-
and there's the article there for you, Britt, too. For the pod crowd we're looking at, Kim Ng was a reluctant trailblazer. Now she's a certified badass on the ever-present challenge of being a female in sports and how the end goal can't be just to get the job. We've been all very vocal and opinionated about this, so the floor is yours on what you've learned and what your thoughts are at this stage in the game, because I imagine at some point maybe Kim will speak publicly. I don't think the Marlins will do shit. They'll try and hide it under the rug. But I hope this story doesn't go away yet.
Yeah, and that is part of the reason why I wrote that column. I mean, 2 days ago, or I don't even know what day today is, Monday, when this first happened, I got a text message from our editors. Ken Rosenthal is working on a million stories at once at any given time. They're like, can you look into this? So I did, and had a report out about some of the issues, why she was kind of felt like she needed to leave. Not only was it just the president over her, which I think people really zeroed in on, but it was the fact that she was just going to be a lame duck GM. They didn't rip up that deal and give her a new 3-year contract and say, hey, you are part of this future. I mean, she couldn't even, guys, as GM, get rid of some of the holdovers from the Jeter era, from the Gary Denbo and some of these guys who weren't loyal to her. She couldn't get rid of some of these guys who were department heads who she felt didn't have her back. There was a lot of backstabbing going on, and it's always really interesting. When you write a story like this, I tell people the next day, you can almost write a follow-up because people will text you, you were right. Oh my God, did you hear about this? And, I kind of put together even more of the puzzle now. And basically it boils down to this. Bruce Sherman was given a bad piece of advice. Bruce Sherman, I was told, was barely around the team, maybe 6 weeks the entire season. Somebody told him they needed somebody above Kim. Not everyone there liked Kim. And Bruce Sherman took it as a good idea. He listened to this person instead of Kim Ng, who he had faith in, or, the organization, at least Derek Jeter had faith in. And look what happened. I mean, it backfired in such a colossal way. And in that article, I talk about how Bruce Sherman cares more about his yacht than he does his people. I can't even say that was written by me. I had somebody who was currently in the Marlins organization say that to me. And I was like, this is good. Can I use this in my article? I feel like people should be more upset. And when I was on the plane, I said to my editor, hey, can I write a column? Is somebody else going to talk about this? Because frankly, it's bullshit. I mean, we talk about Chaim Bloom and how he got wronged. And I know Hannah mentioned this earlier. Like, why can't we talk about the fact that not only was she a trailblazer, but she was treated like dirt at the end. She was kind of said like, here you go. You're lucky you have a job. Now we're going to have somebody come in and make the real decisions. I mean, I've spoken to people in that organization since the article came out that, one, said, thank you, you were dead on. And two, have said, we have taken such a giant step back, this may bury us for years. So I don't know why there's not more of a public outcry. I feel like when you look at what this organization has done, for the first time in 20 years, we were talking about the Marlins in a positive light. Now all of that is gone. They're back to being this like third-rate organization, and Bruce Sherman has no one to blame but himself.
Because there's so many great stories about this team that were created by Kim. They brought in great guys who were productive at the trade deadline. She brought in Skip Schumacher, who nobody was going to give that many opportunities at an interview. He wasn't getting a ton of interviews, and she found Skip Schumacher from an outside source, like exactly the problem that some other organizations are going through, where they're like, oh, actually, we're just going to hire from within. She went to somebody she didn't know, so she clearly wants to know and learn from other people, and now she's essentially being ousted. Even if Bruce Sherman does come out and talk, he's going to say, well, we didn't fire her. She chose to leave. But this is why I think, and I hope Kim talks at some point to somebody that she trusts out there that will give the whole story to us, because Bruce Sherman will he'll come off his yacht and he'll give the token, well, we're moving in the right direction. But she deserves, male or female, to continue to have her job and her job extended because of what she did with a $4 million budget in the offseason with the Marlins.
And what bothers me the most about this, guys, is that I also got a phone call or two, not nearly as many, saying, thank you for writing what you wrote. It was dead on. I had people saying, well, she's not a baseball person. She's been in the game for 3 decades. I had people saying, well, not everybody liked her. Well, not everybody likes Dave Dombrowski. Does that mean that he's not really good at his job and a future Hall of Famer? I mean, everything I heard about Kim at the trade deadline was she brought in everybody. She wanted to hear everyone's opinions. And I had people trying to tell me that that was a negative, that, she did too much collaboration. She listened to too many people. So it is absurd, I think, what she has had to deal with. And then even when she gets treated like this, people are like, well, was she good at her job? Well, if it was a male, would we still be talking about this? Of course we would. Like, I think when you look at this situation, it just shows some of the difficulty she had in getting this job. It took her 30 years to get this job. It took Derek Jeter running things to be like, yeah, I don't care what anyone says. Kim Ng is the most qualified candidate. Like, what a concept, right? And then even out the door, you have people who just can't wait to be like, well, was she that good? Or was she just, up there as a figurehead? No, she was that good. I talked to more than half a dozen people in that organization who said she was that good, who said she commanded the room. People loved working for her all the way down to the scout level up because she listened to other people's opinions. That sounds like a good leader to me. I don't know about you guys.
100%. I back you on that. And my next question to you would be, do you think she wants to go right away and get after it with another baseball team, or is she so disgusted right now she's like, I'm going to take some time off? Because there's going to be other teams ready to, take her with open arms for sure.
I hope she does. I mean, I had someone who is up high in the Marlins organization say to me, like, you were right, she's a badass, and I hope if she wants Boston, she gets it. And I think a lot of people echo that sentiment. If she wants the job, I hope she gets the job. I hope she deserves that opportunity. I hope she is able to lead a team, because she certainly wasn't going to be able to lead the Marlins moving forward the way they had it structured. So I think the best spot for her, and I wrote it in that column because people had floated it, is a president role, is someone over a GM. Chris Getz in Chicago, to me, makes too much sense, because not only has she worked with Jerry Reinsdorf, who we know is very loyal, but she did a good job there. She's well thought of. And I think she'd be an excellent person on top of a guy like Getz, who, was an internal promotion. I mean, she is coming in, and everything we have heard is she listens to other opinions. She wants to bring in outsiders, like you said, Kratzy. So why not get someone like that in an organization that desperately needs some new ideas, that is just full of lifers on this vicious cycle? I think she'd make a great choice there. I think Houston is still looking for someone above Dana Brown. I've heard rumblings that Perry Maniason may have somebody put above him in Anaheim. So if she doesn't get the Boston job, I don't think that there's a lot of interest in that Mets job, because it's essentially an AGM job. David Stearns is making the decisions. This is not what she wants to do. If she doesn't find a job, guys, I think she could end up in the commissioner's office, which is where she was previously for a while, waiting for that next opportunity, right? If she doesn't get what she thinks she deserves, I think she has no problem going to New York for a year or two, waiting for more spots to open up. But this next 10 days in baseball, we talk so much about the GM and the manager jobs. There are so many people in baseball. October 31st, their contracts are up. There's going to be a lot of movement, and there's going to be a lot of organizations who change what they do. So I think we kind of have to stay tuned when it comes to her next step.
Hey, Britt, where is everyone? So when this story broke a few years ago, I was working at the league, and I pushed, and we publicized it a ton when I was there, and I was on shows that day, MLB Tonight, all that, interviews, the whole deal, right? We pushed it. It was awesome. Even like celebrities sending messages, right? We ran some of them. I was even part of that process, like people reaching out, hey, like, I have a daughter who loves the game. This is incredible, right? I'm not even, this isn't a league thing. I'm saying, where is everyone, as in, where are all of the news outlets? Like back then, and you can still do it now, if you do a Google search and say Kim Ng, first female general manager, every freaking news publication out there, even non-sports, wrote about it. Every sports spot, even the ones that don't cover baseball much usually. And I was just using an example earlier with Hannah because I haven't seen enough and maybe I'm missing it, but ESPN was all over that story. And I know they don't cover a ton of baseball like they used to, but I'm like, where is everyone right now about this story? Because it is a problem. It's shady, it's fishy, and I'm lost on that. But I thought it was going to blow up. I really did, based on all of the optics that were there, like the hiring, the success, what you're talking about. And aside from a couple articles, very few, and our show and a podcast or two, almost nothing. Is it because it's October?
No, I think it's because people just don't have the courage to. I think people get scared. And that's what's so great about this show is, you can kind of say whatever you want. And there's nobody saying, hey, that looks really bad. I mean, so much of the media now is state-run media, whether it's MLB, which, is where I came from, where you came from, Scott. And, they're not going to write a scathing article on Bruce Sherman, right? That's just not going to happen. Then so many RSNs that are owned by the team and, have that handcuff as well. And I think this is part of the reason I wrote that column is I was on the plane getting ready to come from Houston to Arlington. And I said to my editor, is anybody writing a column? Because I have something to say. I'm still mad about this. Something needs to be said about how just ridiculous this was. And they were like, no, go ahead. And it only took me the 40 minutes of the plane to just type this out because I had so many other thoughts that I felt like people weren't saying, which is how on earth is this even possible? Like, how do you have an owner that is this dense, that looks at what Kim has done and says, you know what? This one guy who doesn't like you in the organization told me we should hire a president, so I'm going to listen to him. Like, it's absolutely absurd. So I wish it was a bigger story. I don't think the playoffs is overshadowing it. I think people just don't want. Ever had a problem speaking what's on my mind, for better or worse, right? It got me in trouble in middle school and high school and whatever. But I think when something is wrong, you have to have the courage to say that. And it's interesting because Dusty Baker stopped me yesterday on the field to talk about this story. I think people in baseball are upset about it. People in baseball want you to point out that this is wrong, but there are just such a small, dwindling group of reporters who want to point out that's wrong. Because there's still, like I said, those sea of people who are calling me saying, well, was she that good? Right? Trying to plant that doubt in your head and say, well, maybe I should just leave it alone. I'm not there. Instead of making the calls, talking to the people in the organization and saying, yes, she was that good. Yes, she wasn't universally liked. That doesn't mean she deserved to be treated the way she was treated in Miami.
Yeah, but how do we avoid this? How do we, I'm super new into this. How do we avoid falling into, because you're not even giving your opinion. You're giving how you feel. That's not an opinion. You're giving only research that you found from people that you talk to within the organization. How do we avoid this? Because to me, baseball, I really, really enjoy the game of baseball. I love watching it. I do. I love the people that are in it. I love the fact that I've had a career out of it. But if we don't ever, and I hate to say smash through the glass ceiling, but like Kim Ng's, not only did she do this, she's qualified. She's overqualified. Derek Jeter's words, a Hall of Fame baseball player, overqualified. And yet now all of a sudden we're like 3 years in and it was like all these baseball people were like, oh, I was holding my breath. Oh, she's out now. Whew, finally. Yes. How do we avoid this?
Well, I mean, I still think that the culture in baseball is behind. I think it made people uncomfortable that she was in a position of power. And I wrote some of this in my column because, as a female in sports and certainly at the national level, you guys talked to Hannah, who's a dear friend of mine, does an excellent job. There's maybe only a handful of us. So it really becomes like some people are very uncomfortable with the status quo changing. And I think Kim Ng represented that. And I think people felt like, oh my God, like if we're going to hire more women, where are the jobs for me going to go? Instead of saying like, hey, the best person should get the job, right? Like when Alyssa Nacken interviewed, I got texts from people that were like, is she really a candidate here? Like, as much as people want to pretend there's still positivity around these things, I think it's mostly public positivity. I think there is a large subset of baseball who doesn't want change, who doesn't want women in power or minorities in power, who wants to keep things the way that they are. And I do think the commissioner's office is upset about the Kim Ng thing. I do think baseball wants her to have another job again quickly because it was good for them to point at her and say, look, we're making strides. But as I wrote in my article, are we making strides if she gets the job and then this happens to her, right? Are we doing enough? Getting the job is simply not enough. I say this to people all the time. It's great that I'm in this visible role, but getting the job isn't enough. I have to do the job and I have to do the job right. And I think the only way we kind of change this narrative is to keep having women in these positions and have them be successful and have them to not be treated like shit, like have them be treated like everybody else. People comparing Chaim Bloom to what happened to Kim Ng, apples to oranges, not even close in my mind. Like if we are going to say Kim Ng is not a baseball person with 30 years of experience in baseball, what is the rest of this league? What of Chaim Bloom? What of Ross Atkins, who got crushed in the playoffs for everything going on? What of half of these baseball GMs who don't have half the track record that Kim does? So as you guys can tell, this is something that really bothers me. It's something that fires me up. But I think we need a lot more courageous people. And what's great about The Athletic, and you guys know with Ken, is we don't play favorites. We don't say, hey, we can't write this because then this guy will stop being our source. And there's a lot of that goes on. I think that people don't realize a lot of the news that comes to you depends on where you get it from. And are you going to play friends with this agent so that he slips you something? Well, if his client does something bad, then you can't write it, right? There's a lot of this give and take in baseball media, and I'm just tired of it. Like, if something is wrong, we all have to say it's wrong. We have to write it's wrong. If it burns a source, it burns a source. Your job is to find out the story and tell the story. That's it.
And we're talking postseason, obviously, a ton, doing, ALCS, NLCS talk and post-game shows and all that. We're doing that. This isn't like complaining. This is pointing out sometimes the difficult stories, the shitty stories. Because the one other thing I just thought of was, because I'm like having flashbacks to when this was all talked about a few years ago. The amount of times I heard this on public interviews too. I'm rooting for her because we need more women in that role. I'm rooting for her. Okay, well, have you been rooting for her the last few years? Because she took a team that has no resources and brought them to the playoffs, fixed the pen, made good trade deadline acquisitions, lost her top 2 starters, and end up losing in the wild card round to a team that has a pretty good chance and is the favorite right now to win the World Series, and essentially got fired. Like, we don't have to beat around the bush on this show either, right? Because like people are gonna have to go over semantics. Technically, there was the option, whatever, and there were actually some fans in our chat yesterday that said, oh, well, I heard she got an extension offer. I was like, where? I haven't seen that. There's only 2 articles out about it. Where did you hear an extension offer? I was like, that is fucking bullshit.
Yes. Yeah. So you're going to start to hear that other side, right? The Sherman leaks and the, trying to tell the other side. I don't think Sherman will speak publicly on this. I doubt Kim will either. I think what you may see from the Sherman side is some of this, like, yeah, we know we offered her this, or, stuff that really, frankly, isn't true. If they had offered her something, it would have leaked out. It would have been reported already by myself or ESPN or people who actually looked into this. So I agree with you. I think this whole thing is a mess. It's certainly, I think, for MLB kind of mars what's going on right now with the playoffs. But it's important that we keep talking about it because it just proves that we can have a woman in a high-profile position and we can pat ourselves on the back and say, yay, equality, we're doing it. But we're not there yet. And this proves it. The fact that people are saying that maybe she wasn't well suited for that role, or, oh, some people didn't like her. It just tells you everything you need to know about the steps that still need to happen in this sport.
Yeah, I hope it keeps getting covered. And we talked about, hopefully she'll come on, here or speak publicly. Even if she probably doesn't feel necessarily super comfortable doing it, but just like for the advancement of the sport and everything, I hope that gets done. Okay, so with our last couple minutes here with you, I do want to also get to the Nationals because we brought that up a while back, and you are as locked in on the Nationals as anyone. What happened with the changes there with the coaching staff? It's one thing we know about the front office with them. They don't like to pay people, and they made some changes there and whatever. I know they don't love to probably pay the coaching staff that well either, but we were confused because the Nationals probably exceeded expectations more than any team. Like, we're looking at like Vegas odds on their win total. Like, they were good in the second half and they barely had anything. Isn't that the coaching staff?
Yeah. Yes, I know. It was so weird because I remember getting this text like, hey, I heard they let coaches go. And I was trying to put my son to bed. And I was like, what? Why? It doesn't make any sense on the surface. My first thought was that this was about money. The Nationals have tried to save money. They've tried to pare down payroll in the front office. Mike Rizzo just this winter got rid of a lot of his top lieutenants. But I was told it was not about money. This was Dave Martinez wanting some fresh eyes. This was him wanting some different voices. And when you look at some of the guys that he got rid of, these were people who he had been with for a very long time. Tim Bogart, I was with Davey and Tim Bogart in Tampa Bay in 2008. That's how far back these two guys go. Bogey was the quality control coach. Davey was Joe Maddon's bench coach. So they had really been together and in the trenches, and still it felt like Davey needed some new voices. And I think a lot of people took it as, okay, is there some kind of friction with him and these guys? And I don't think that's it. I know Davey's already making calls, already taking interviews to try to fill these spots. But I think they feel like, look, the Nationals are behind in a lot of things. They're behind in player development. They're behind in analytics. They are so far behind a lot of these organizations in these things. And they looked at their coaching staff and they were like, we need some fresh ideas. We need some innovation. And what they've done already is steal 2 two guys from the Baltimore Orioles, which is an organization that has proven they can develop and draft and get the most out of their players. And I think you're going to start to see that as well. I think Davey is going to kind of get out of his comfort zone a little bit with some of these out-of-the-box hires and look at what's being done around the league and say, how do we get the Nationals to this next level? So that's really what that's about.
Awesome stuff. I just have a simple question for you to finish from me. Who you got winning the World Series? We talk about a lot of stuff now, but where are you at right now? Who do you think right now is going to win the World Series?
It's Philly, and I know you guys gave all this love to Philly earlier with Hannah. It pains me to say it, but they just look like a team of destiny, do they not? Like, everything goes their way. You guys have seen this. Every year is that one team that can do no wrong, and you're like, that is the Philadelphia Phillies this year. I don't see anybody beating them. So I don't think it matters who wins this ALCS. I think the Phillies are going to steamroll their way to a World Series parade, and God help that whole city and how much alcohol will be consumed the day that it happens.
Yes.
And they grease the poles so that they
they better grease
don't jump up on the poles and get Kratz knows. They're the expert on that.
Eric's pissed
Kratz.
off about that, but it's okay.
ALCS for a moment, since you're covering that series and you covered Max in DC. What did you think about his demeanor too? I actually thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Hannah pointed out, because I didn't think about this, that, sometimes he's so intense, and he was okay. It's like, dude is late in his career trying to come back after months. Like, it happens. I think there were a lot of people that were like, this might not go well. And actually, it's like the velocity was there. It seemed like he's healthy. Just didn't have his fastball command. Shocker after 2.5 months off.
Yeah, I said to Hannah, I've covered this guy for 2 years on a day-to-day basis when I was on the Nats beat, and then, obviously longer now. But I said, I've never seen him act like this. She's like, okay, I was shocked too. So Hannah and I were in the clubhouse for a while waiting on Mike Maddox, who never came out because they were trying to figure out how the hell they're going to pitch in tonight's game. But I was shocked. I thought Max was going to be like, I was terrible, I lost the game, and he wasn't. He was super positive, Max, and it was jarring. I've never seen that, and he didn't break. People kept asking the same question. And I think the more I think about it and the more I talk to people who know Max, I think it was a mental thing. I think he has to stay positive because he knows he's going to get used again in this series, whether that's on short rest as a starter or more likely probably out of the bullpen. And I think he had to kind of convey that I'm okay message through the media to the Astros to let them know, hey, I'm here. I'm still Max Scherzer. Yeah, my slider wasn't right. And by the way, his slider had the worst whiff rate than during the regular season so it was really just off. That was really kind of the story for me, was that slider was just not getting any swings and misses. But I think he had to kind of say, I'm Max Scherzer, I'm healthy, I'm ready to go, and was like super Mr. Positive guy to convince the Astros and to convince himself that he was ready, that he was Max Scherzer again, because that was essentially a rehab start in Game 3 of the ALCS, guys. I mean, he hadn't pitched in over a month. I know he's Max Scherzer, but he still is human. Right? As Mitch Garber said to me, he's still not going to go out there and be Cy Young. You had to give him a little bit of a break. I was surprised with the way he reacted, but the more I thought about it, the more I talked to people, this was the only way for him to react. If he got mad, if he went into a shell, it may negatively impact him down the road in this series. And also, I think it's a little bit of that mind game that Max loves to play with opponents. He wouldn't say what was so positive about the outing because he didn't want to give Houston the edge, which is quintessential Max Scherzer. So the more I think about it, the more Max Scherzer had to stay locked in, had to stay positive, and it was jarring to see, but I think it's going to help him the next time he pitches. That's
a good point, because, there were times this year, Kratz, remember, where he didn't have that slider, and then it would pop back up, and he'd be great again. And frankly, I think, and I know you want to get her prediction on this series too, I think they kind of need Scherzer if they're going to win the World Series, because you just said, they're figuring out their pitching plans. I think the Astros are winning tonight's game. They're going to piggyback 2 starters, and then I don't even know what the discussion is on the next game too, right? You got 3 in a row here. You might exhaust your bullpen today a little bit too. Do we know what Game 5 looks like? Is John Gray a part of that one?
Maybe. He looked rusty last night, though. He didn't look good. So I don't know if you could run him out there if the series, like you said, say the Astros win tonight. Now it's 2-2. You really got to win. Do you bring back Evaldi on short rest? Right? I don't know. Montgomery? Do you do something like that where you go, all right, guys, these are your throw days. We're going to do this. But then you only have 1 day off before 6. So honestly, this is a huge game for Texas, because if they can somehow sneak away with this win, like they did in Baltimore, where they essentially had that bullpen game, it sets them up so much better down the road. If they can get that 3 2/3 from Heaney, and then they go to Dane Dunning and then Bradford, and all of a sudden they've made it through this game, they're in so much of a better spot because they didn't use any of their A bullpen last night. Whereas the Astros did, right? They used Presley. And now if we go 3 in a row, 3 must-win games for the Astros, you may see them start to falter by tomorrow. So I think it's really interesting game for Texas. Like, can they piece this together? I think they can. I want them to win the ALCS. I'm tired of Houston every year. I'm tired of going to Houston every October. Like, I'm over it. It would be so nice if Texas could win this in Texas. But obviously, guys, this looks like it's going to be a 7-game series.
So you're saying who's going to play the
saying
Phillies in
Texas.
the World? Texas? No. I didn't ask. I didn't need another question. I'm Texas.
Texas? I'm saying the Phillies are going to win.
Phillies
Erik,
over.
I thought you had good questions.
Phillies over here.
Rangers or Astros?
I got them.
You got Rangers or Astros taking this series if you had to pick right now? Obviously, the Rangers have the edge by a game, but I think it's going to be 2-2 after tonight.
Gosh, why, guys? I want to get out of this state. I think it's going to be Texas. It's going to go 7.
Okay.
I was hoping to be home this weekend, but, a little bit longer in the Lone Star State.
Still got
Where
a few
everything
days.
is fried. Everything is fried here, guys. I have yet to find anything in the stadium that's not fried. So keep me posted.
Enjoy it. Enjoy
I
it.
didn't even think about that.
It's vacation.
Yeah, exactly. And you still have a few days in between because that game 7 would be Monday.
Yep.
And we know there's not going to be a game 7 for Phillies Diamondbacks. So then between Monday and Friday, we'll have a lot of time to just hang out, not watch games, super late. So I was complaining about that earlier. I want more games. But anyway, Britt, have fun. Enjoy the rest of this series. Thank you for coming on. Super important topic. Ton of respect from us on what you're doing. And we're here to talk about it anytime if there's more that unravels.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
You too. Cheers. Thank you, Britt Ghiroli, from The Athletic. And, obviously we'll post some of these clips so that also, in case you don't have her Twitter handle, you can check it out and check out those articles too. So we've been very passionate about that story this week. Let's slap hands. I'll go first. So Mike Petriello, who does a great job analyzing numbers in the game, has kept us up to speed on the pitch clock and the time of game with the postseason. And he said the clock violation, this was last night, that just happened, was only the 5th of the postseason. 4 on pitchers, 1 on hitters.
Solid.
It just hasn't been an issue at all, to everyone's credit. Postseason average time of game is down from, in 2021, the average time was 3 hours, 37 minutes. We had plenty of games that went past 4 hours. Last year, we shaved 5 whole freaking minutes off. It was 3:32. This year, 2 hours, 59 minutes. They are nailing it for the playoffs. Obviously, playoffs is going to be longer than it is during the regular season. There's pitching changes. There's longer breaks between innings, the whole deal. But it feels better. There's times where it would drag. And again, it's not about the time of game. There's been wild games that are 4.5 hours, right? Like in baseball history, of course. But the game's the same. It's still the same amount of freaking outs. We're not switching balls and strikes and all of that. So for me, you're just packing. We've talked about this a lot, but you're packing more game into less time. And that's a win.
Perfect.
Right? Everyone's happy. No one's
anything
complaining.
around 3 is great.
Yep.
Solid. I mean, 8 p.m., 8:05, whatever it is, 8:07 o'clock game on the East Coast, done by 11
max.
11:10. Oh, God. I can get a little snack before I go to bed. Maybe a little
evening
little
cocktail.
Scotch.
Yeah.
Brush your teeth.
No, we don't.
With
don't
scotch.
brush until the scotch. Yeah, we brush them with the scotch-a-roni, all right?
It's alcohol that cleans it, right?
You're looking for a spritzer. I know what you're doing.
We haven't had any extra inning games. I feel like the Rangers take tonight in extras.
Oh.
Wow.
How do you do it?
Okay.
Let's see what that parlay is. I'm just going to check it out.
Here we
right
go.
now.
You're betting too much. Slow your roll now.
Okay, I'll stop.
No, you can do what you want.
He's thrown out like 4 or 5 ideas. What's on your head? What do you got?
You got all the money there, kid.
Yeah.
The OG hat. There's a lot of OG hats going down. Anybody?
MH.
Oh, give me the state.
Look even closer.
Mud Hens?
Oh, the Toledo Mud Hens.
Nope.
Is that
the first team I ever played for in Pro Ball?
Oh, the Little League team. The Pennsylvania Dutchman.
In Pro Bowl. In Pro Bowl.
No, we're talking about minor league
Alberta.
ball. Thank you.
Medicine Hat.
Wow, that's cool.
That's the name of the city, Medicine Hat.
Yeah.
That's
If you look
cool.
at a map of Alberta,
Yeah.
it's Calgary, nothing, Edmonton, and Medhat.
Cool. Okay. I like it. I learned something there.
And Todd,
Atlantic City, Borgata, in person, all of us. What were you going to say to Todd?
No, I was just going to say, you know who Brian is from Delco?
Delco Brian? No.
Yeah, Brian from Delco. He's a dude who got smashed in the Phillies game when he was running out on the field.
Yeah. He said
I'm going to do that to you tomorrow. I'm going to do that to you tomorrow at Borgata.
Come get some. Come get some. Meet me halfway.
Erik Kratz, office linebacker at Borgata. See him live with us. We will see you 1 o'clock Eastern on Friday in person if you're there. Bye.